Hey, I'm Lukas. Today I want to show you how you can inspect your Docker volumes, even if your container is running in the cloud on a remote machine. And you can see I am connected to a Docker volume right here, and I get this very neat file browser, and I can enter these folders, I can see what's inside, I can even open files and edit them right here in the browser. And I can download and upload files into these volumes. How do we do that? Let me show you. I will go over to sliplane.io, and Sliplane is a cloud provider that makes hosting Docker containers very easy. And for our little demo project, we will use Sliplane. So let's get started with our GitHub account. I will create a new project, call this one Filebrowser. Inside of the project, I will click on deploy service, and then I have to create a server first. So I will click on create server, and I just go with the defaults right here. I will give it a name and call this one demo server, for example, but you can give it whatever name you want. You can choose a different location for your server. And if you have some different needs for the server type, if you need something more powerful, there are plenty of options, and there's probably the one that you need as well. But for our little demo, the base server is plenty strong. If I click on create paid server, a new server will be created, and I will get charged €9 per month. But keep in mind that if I want to tear this server down after 3 days, I will only get charged for the 3 days of usage. So let's click on create paid server. And this will take a few seconds until a new server will be created. And there we go, the server has been created. It is showing up in the list right here. I will click on this server, and then I choose registry as my deploy from. In the image URL, I will type in Nextcloud, and this is just an example image that we're going to deploy. If we scroll down a little bit further, I will add a volume to this Nextcloud instance and call it NC data. The mount path will be var www html. How do I know all that? If we scroll back up again, you can see this little link to the Nextcloud documentation, and if I click on it, I will be redirected to the Nextcloud Docker image. And right here, there are all of the instructions in order to run a Nextcloud image. But luckily, for testing purposes, you can spin up a Nextcloud instance very, very easily, and you really don't need to provide any config in order to run Nextcloud. As you can see right here, the minimal example, it is just a docker run Nextcloud command, and you will get an example application running Nextcloud. And if you do want to persist data, you can mount a volume to the var www html path. And this is exactly what we have done right here in Sliplane. I attached a volume NC data, and I chose var www html as the container mount path. So let's click on deploy in order to deploy this example application. Now this will take a few seconds as well, so let's quickly wait for this deploy to finish. If we click on the Nextcloud service right here, we can see all of the settings that we provided when we spun up this container. And there's really not much in there. There is the image URL. We didn't use any credential to access this image since it's a public image. You could also override run command, health checks, environment variables, and so on. But we are mostly interested in this volume tab right here. And if I click on it, there is a volume attached to this Nextcloud instance, and it is called NC data, and the mount path is var www html. If I go back to the settings, the deploy is still in progress. I can click on deploy in progress, and I can see what is going on right here. So currently it is downloading the Nextcloud image. It will take a little bit, and the logs have been updated. I can see some GET requests coming in, which means our deploy is live, and we are hooked up with this public domain right here. And if I click on it, there is a new instance of Nextcloud. So let's quickly choose an admin account name, some random password, and click on install. And this is going to put all kinds of different files and folders into this volume. And now what we are going to do is we will try to access this volume. And to do that, I will deploy a new service on the same server. I will click on the same server, and in the registry section right here, I will look for Filebrowser. I will choose the first one from the list and also go with the latest tag. And all we have to do right now is scroll down to this volumes tab or to this volumes card. Then I click on add volume and I choose the same volume that I attached to Nextcloud, which was called NC data. I will select this one, and as a mount path, I will just type in SRV. If we scroll back up again, click on the docs link, then you can see the Filebrowser package, and this time the instructions are not right here in the Docker Hub documentation, but it points me towards this. Please check the main repository for more info. And if we click on this one right here, if we scroll down a little bit, so documentation is linked again. It is pointing me to filebrowser.org. Right here we can find the official documentation for Filebrowser. We can find all of the features, getting started. And we can find here on the left side this little Docker section. And there you can see, in order to run this, we need to attach a volume and mount it to the SRV directory. And that is exactly what we did right here. And actually, this is already enough configuration and the fastest way to spin up an instance of Filebrowser. So I will click on deploy right here. And similar to Nextcloud, this will take a few seconds. We can also inspect the Filebrowser service. We can check what image we used. And if we scroll down even further, we can see we didn't use any environment variables right here, but we did attach a volume, and it is the same volume that our Nextcloud service is using. The deploy has finished. And if I click on the public domain right here on the right side, I am now in this Filebrowser interface, but as you can see, we need some credentials in order to access it. The username is admin, and to see the password, we will go back to the Filebrowser in our Sliplane application, and then right here in the logs tab, we can see randomly generated password for user admin, and we will just copy this password right here and paste it in the Filebrowser login, and there we go. We are now connected to Filebrowser, we are authenticated, and we can see all of the files and folders that Nextcloud has created in this Nextcloud NC data volume. Filebrowser is really a very cool utility in order to quickly inspect the content of a Docker volume on a remote machine. And you have this very nice interface right here, and you get a ton of information, like when the files were last accessed, how big they are, and how much space you have left on your machine. Navigate to the folders, you can open these files, you can have a look and quickly inspect them. Now, one thing to notice, that if I want to modify this file right here, and if I click on save, I do get an error. And the error 403 forbidden means that when Nextcloud created all of these files and folders, they used a different user with different permissions. And now, right now I'm accessing the volume and the files in the volume with Filebrowser. And Filebrowser currently has only read permission in this case because of the way Nextcloud set up these files and folders. And like I said, they use a different user with different permission. And this isn't always the case, but sometimes you will run into this issue if you want to edit a file. But as a fallback, if you really need to edit these files and Filebrowser doesn't work, you can always, I will go back to Sliplane, go to the Nextcloud instance, and right here you see this SSH tab, and I can always connect to this service via SSH. So let's quickly do this in order to see how it works. So I click on attach an SSH key, and right here in the drop-down list, you can see I already did that. But if you haven't created an SSH key yet, you can click on add new key, and then follow the instructions right here that are linked in this little guide. So if you created the key, paste in the public key right here, and then it will show up right here in the list. So I will click on the key to attach it to the service, and then I can copy the SSH command. I will open a new terminal. Let's make this a little bit bigger for you. And then I will paste in the command, and I am connected to this service. And if I type ls in here, I will get a list of all of the files and folders inside this directory. And this is basically the same content that we have right here. I will click on discard to discard my changes. And you can see all of these files: authors, composer, composer log, console.php. And these are all of the files that we can also find right here. We have the author, composer, composer log, and so on and so forth. So if I really want to edit files, I can always do that via SSH as a fallback. So that's already it. As you can see, Filebrowser is really a handy little tool, and I strongly recommend it for everyone if you need to inspect the content of a volume. If you did like the video, give it a thumbs up, comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.